In the heart of our field lies the future of agriculture, sustainable, innovative, and powered by smart solutions from the rich soil of Africa to high-tech farms around the globe. Agriculture is evolving to meet the demands of tomorrow. At the intersection of tradition and technology, we discover smarter ways to grow more, waste less, and harvest greener. Together, we are cultivating a future where every harvest sustains the earth and its people. Join us 11:15 a.m. Mondays and Fridays on Global TV, Channel 365 DSTV, StarTime Channel 276, or YouTube Livestream GSA Initiative. Agriculture for today and tomorrow, as we share groundbreaking ideas, empowering farmers, and celebrate greenhouse solutions. Together, let's grow the future.
Hello and welcome everyone to today's episode of Agriculture for Today and Tomorrow. Here we promote smart solutions for a greener harvest. My name is Esther Itefia. Remember, this is a media for agricultural development of the Growth for Sustainable Agriculture Initiative, an NGO that is poised to support African farmers in developing sustainable, innovative, and profitable farm practices. Today we are going to discuss about a pertinent topic in agriculture. This topic has been gaining global attention, and it is carbon farming and the future of sustainable agriculture. For a lot of us, we know what sustainable agriculture is and we understand its practices. But for many people, carbon farming is an entirely new concept. Well, let us think no further. We have an expert in the house today who is going to shed more light on what carbon farming is. He is deeply versed in regenerative agriculture, carbon farming, and in sustainable agriculture. And he also works as a senior agronomist with TOBA. Here with us is Mr. Emmanuel Odichukwu.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Mr. Emmanuel Odichukwu, to today's episode of Agriculture for Today and Tomorrow.
Thank you.
I remember the last time I heard you speak, you talked about carbon farming, and I just knew that we had to have you on the show. Welcome once again.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. For a lot of people who do not know about carbon farming, in what simple terms can you explain carbon farming?
Thank you. So let's contextualize it so that it will be easier. First, let's take it down to, before we say carbon farming, let's look at the primary school definition of, you take in oxygen, you take out carbon dioxide. So human beings take in oxygen, they breathe out carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide we're taking out, plants are taking carbon dioxide and they're releasing oxygen. So that has been established that plants take in carbon dioxide. So if plants take in the carbon dioxide, that's where the concept of, say carbon farming comes in. So in farming, what do? You're seeding, you're planting something, you're planting a seed. So if you say carbon farming, you're saying you're planting carbon. So the carbon that plants have trapped through their leaves, they get to store it in their body, in their trunks, and in the soil. So the soil serves as a carbon sink. So that's where the concept of carbon farming comes from. So when they store up this carbon, then there is other activities that happen where you say, okay, you're calculating the carbon and you're looking at, okay, what are the practices that actually ensure that this carbon that has been captured and stored in the soil is retained there. So that's what carbon farming is about. Carbon trapped and retained in the trunks and in the soil. So that's all about carbon farming.
Right. So plants taking carbon dioxide and they use that in...
Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense. So, but in Nigeria today, is it something that we are already practicing, even if we don't call it carbon farming?
Yes. So when you talk about carbon farming, you're not talking about a set of practices which farmers are already doing. You're talking about something like maybe the tilling system. So you're talking about the residue retention. You're talking about intercropping, monocropping. So farmers are already doing these practices. But when you bring it to the concept of regenerative agriculture, carbon farming, you're not looking at how do you synergize or bring these practices together so that they are able to achieve that purpose of carbon farming. as it is. So you're looking at, okay, the farmer is not just only doing minimum tillage, because of course heavy tilling will see that the carbon that you've stored in the soil escapes back. So some farmers are doing minimum tillage as a practice. They might be doing it monocropping. Some farmers are doing heavy tillage, and at the end of the season, you see them, maybe they take the residue and take it home, they feed their cattle or herds with it.
Yes.
Some, they even burn the field. So we're saying in regenerative practices, in carbon farming, you try to bring these practices together so that it becomes beneficial to the farmers. So you say, you advise a farmer, okay, can you do minimum tillage? It depends on the context, the soil texture. That's why you advise, okay, are you doing minimum tillage, or you're telling the farmer, oh, do no till? Some farmers can say, oh, the nature of the soil, you advise, okay, no till can work for you. So minimum till. So minimum tillage, then we now say, okay, intercropping. Improving the relationship between these crops. Legume and cereal relationship. Knowing that one is a heavy nutrient consumer, that's the cereal. So we supplement with legume. Yeah. So a farmer that does only maize or sorghum or millet will advise, okay, can you go with it with granules, with soybean, with cowpea, depending on the time of the season of the year, since most of our farmers are rain-fed farmers.
That's true.
So at the end of the farming season, the farmer is also advised, okay, since the plants took in carbon dioxide, their leaves, their trunks are all carbon.
Yes.
So after harvest, you leave the stalks on the field, let it decompose, and add carbon into the soil instead of burning it. It has a lot of benefits. Aside that the farmer is looking at the carbon farming or the carbon credit now, which is like the benefit they get, the financial benefit. You're looking at the benefit to the crop now, that you're improving the soil, the organic matter now, the soil structure. You're improving the soil structure where microorganisms can live better, interact better in the soil, which helps in the activities of the plants. And you see the benefit also to the soil, and then the benefit that comes financially at the end, which is called the carbon credit.
So that means that already we practice carbon farming, but we do not really know that this is it. Like from what you said, the monocropping, the crop rotation, and intercropping. But with the current challenges in agriculture here in Nigeria, such as soil degradation and climate variability, how can carbon farming be relevant in improving the farming system of Nigeria?
So thank you. So when you talk about soil degradation, that's where the advice to leave residue comes in.
Okay.
That's where the advice to do minimum tillage comes in. So that by the time you reduce the tilling, is it that minimum tillage or reduced tillage, you get to preserve the topsoil. So if erosion comes, the residue you've left help to preserve the topsoil. The reduced tillage help to preserve the topsoil, so that with that minimal disturbance to the soil, you retain the topsoil. So there is no soil degradation, as the case may be. Erosion is not happening there. You're improving the soil texture and all that have to do with it. The microorganisms are doing better in the soil. So we see that these have benefits as it is. Even the climate now, because when we talk about carbon credits, it is funds that are released by companies that are trying to offset, or organizations trying to offset their carbon footprint. Yes. So when they bring these funds, that's where you can say, okay, you have something to even compensate farmers that are doing these practices. Yes. So that is how it plays out.
Wow. Well, you are the expert on the on ground. How realistic can this fit into the smallholder system in Nigeria? Because the smallholder farmers are actually the majority of the farmers here in Nigeria.
So currently we work with smallholder farmers. Okay. So it fits in perfectly into the activities of smallholder farmers. You can see that a farmer that has a hectare, 2 hectares, they could better be advised that, okay, on this 1 hectare, you can intercrop maize with maybe soybean or granules or even beans. So in this intercropping, they get to maximize that space. They get to have that benefit of harvesting 2 crops or 3 crops in the same season, and they run concurrently. So one doesn't affect the other. So thereby improving or increasing the benefit they get on the space of land where they are supposed to maybe do monocropping. The soil is preserved from minimum tillage. The soil is also that soil preservation and conservation, and the residue that is left at the end of the farming season is something that now adds that carbon to the soil. It's not an immediate benefit, but it takes like maybe 3, 4, 5 years depending on the project. Yes. Then the farmers can start getting the benefit. Results. But it goes beyond even the practices I'm mentioning. There is agroforestry and there are other practices that also come in as part of the carbon farming activity. So it's a lot of practices.
So which of these practices can you say that Nigerians can immediately start adopting that is very easy for adoption right now?
So farmers are already adopting. So across the north, you see, let's say like the north, you see like that practice of intercropping, minimum tillage, residue management. Farmers are already adopting these practices. When you go to the southern part of the country, you can see agroforestry thriving there, or reforestation thriving there. Biochar is for regions or areas where they are doing, let's say like Akwa Ibom, and where in the east, where they have a lot of palm trees, they have palm kernels. All these are transformed into biochar, which is sent back to the field. So it depends on every project because it's vast. The certifiers have, they call it methodology. So they have different segments for these practices where a project can decide, okay, I'm picking this part to focus here. So some can say I'm focusing on agroforestry, some can say I'm focusing on land management and improvement. So it depends on where you pick. You focus there, you pick the practices that are applicable. So farmers are already doing these practices depending on the project that approaches them and the methodology that applies to that region and the farmers in that region.
Carbon farming is a very big concept, but it is from what you've said, it is very important for the average farmer to practice it for long-term sustainability. You talked about carbon credit and finances, and I'm sure a lot of our audience who are watching would want to key into it and are curious to know the benefits and all. But for today, this is where we'll put a stop to the conversation, and we'll discuss that in the next episode. It has been an insightful conversation with you. Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel.
It's my pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So that's it for today's episode on agriculture for today and tomorrow. Let us meet same time 11:15 a.m. on Friday, where we'll discuss more about the benefits, income opportunities that are available in carbon farming and sustainable agriculture as a whole. My name is Esther Itifia, your host. Thank you and see you next time.
In the heart of our field lies the future of agriculture, sustainable, innovative, and powered by smart solutions from the rich soil of Africa to high-tech farms around the globe. Agriculture is evolving to meet the demands of tomorrow. At the intersection of tradition and technology, we discover smarter ways to grow more, waste less, and harvest greener. Together, we are cultivating a future where every harvest sustains the earth and its people. Join us 11:15 a.m. Mondays and Fridays on Global TV, Channel 365 DSTV, StarTime Channel 276, or YouTube Livestream GSA Initiative. Agriculture for today and tomorrow, as we share groundbreaking ideas, empowering farmers, and celebrate greenhouse solutions. Together, let's grow the future.